interface for Esploro. So we're really very excited to sort of start, like, well, we're in middle of March already, almost at the end of March, but to share with you the latest updates of Esploro with you. We're going to record the session, but Nadav and Adi, from you pretty familiar with all the people on the call, at least most of them. I think, are you okay to take questions as they come, or would you like to sort of wait till each of the sessions have ended? Either is fine.
Sure, when they come, I think it's fine.
Okay. All right, perfect. So for those of you who I don't know, although I'm looking at the attendee list and I know everyone on the list so far, I think. So my name's Amanda Healy and run the sales team for Esploro for Asia Pacific. And a couple of housekeeping things. Everyone's lines are muted, just to mute any unnecessary sound. So if you do have a question, there's a Q&A box. There's also the chat box, and you can type them in at any time, and we'll all keep an eye on the chat questions for you and ask the questions of Nadav and Adi. We are going to record the session, and we'll distribute the recording later tonight or tomorrow. For those that are in attendance and for those that have registered that perhaps haven't been able to attend. So with that, I'd just like to welcome our speakers, Nadav Doron, who I'm sure will introduce himself, but he's the Vice President of Research Services based in Israel, and he's travelled around quite a few times to a lot of the sites represented here on the list, so it's nice to have you all reconnected again. And Adi Alter, who is the Director of Product Management as well. So Adi will be doing a demonstration and Nadav is going to share some sort of latest information. So with that, Nadav, I'm going to pass over to you, and thanks very much.
Thank you, Amanda. Great to be here. Start the day with this session. Very happy to give an update to the forum. I think I know most of you from various discussions. Maybe some of those were face to face, some of those email discussions or Basecamp discussions. So happy that you joined. And our goal for today is to give you an update where we are in terms of Esploro, what is our direction, where are we going. I'm going to talk, I have a few slides, I'm going to run through them. This is not the main thing that we want to do. Then Adi will provide some a roadmap, like where are we going, and demos of new things that will be coming up, which I think some of you have already seen at least some of that. So without further ado, I'll start. And as Amanda said, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. So, sorry, when we speak about Esploro and we look about Esploro, our goal at the end of the day is to help institutions and universities to better showcase their research activities. And this is a quote from Martin Kirk from King's College in London. He's part of our research council, and he said that universities' research is like a moonshot, and our goal is to reduce the drag. And at the end of the day, this is what we are looking for with Esploro. Another thing that I want to share with you is a survey that we did mid last year. It was 6 months ago, give or take, with more than 300 researchers across the globe. And as you can see, it's not very surprising, but at the end of the day, the level of satisfaction from the services that researchers get from research office and libraries went down last year, probably because of COVID, from 80-something% to around 50%, which is a very significant drop. So this is one thing, and we know that there is a lot of room for improvement from all of us, also to reduce the amount of administrative tasks that researchers do. And you can see on the right-hand side how much time researchers spend on average on their administrative tasks. And this is what we try to help also with our researcher view of Esploro that Adi will show, and also by allowing or helping librarians and research office to do the work more efficiently. Looking at the research space today, you see that there are many systems here. Most universities have most of these systems, not all of those. With Esploro, we're trying to unify those. And when we try to unify those, not all of those, Esploro, we're aiming at replacing IRs, replacing data repositories, free systems, and research showcasing and profiles. So these are, our vision is to unify those into one comprehensive system. When we look at Esploro today, so this is the new or the updated messaging of Esploro, and I'll briefly go over this slide, as I'm sure you know Esploro already, but the foundation of Esploro is what we call the Smart Harvesting AI, which includes the smart migration that some of you have already undergo, the smart expansion, which is a method to import information from external sources while enhancing the metadata. These external sources can be Pivot RP, can be FAR systems, can be down the road CVs or other formats that we will do with ORCID, etc. And eventually the smart harvesting, which we've been talking about. These all help us build the Research Information Hub, which is our new name for the repository. We changed the terminology from repository into Information Hub because it starts to include much more information than traditional repositories. It also includes research, or will include soon, later this year, projects, research projects, activities, awarded grants, etc., which are not included in the repository. On top of those, we represent our applications, which are the research portal that you know, the profiles, the researcher profiles, application for funding opportunities through integration with Pivot RP, and the analytics dashboard. All of these come to help us with these 6 use cases, which may not be relevant to all of you, but in general, for the community, these are use cases that we see as relevant for the Esploro user, whether it's the expert finder use case to help administrators in the university, but also researchers themselves to find other experts in specific topics, help in prestige and showcasing, can be fed, the data in Esploro can be fed into other systems like faculty activity reporting, in national assessment modules, in helping the research office to find the right people for industry partnership, and of course the open access repository, which we have been focused in the last 2 years about. So this is the Esploro offering, and this is our focus. I briefly want to go over some of examples. So this is an example that was made actually by Ghislaine. He's here in the call, which we use in some of our activities with prospects, where we look at one of the researchers and we analyze the information that we get through smart harvesting for this researcher in Esploro, and we compare it to other sources in the industry. And as you can see here, this is an example from a researcher from Northumbria in UK. And you see that for Esploro, smart harvesting had 48 outputs for her, where all of the other systems, whether Scopus, ResearchGate, Web of Science, etc., did not did as great in that regard. So this is the power of smart harvesting. Another thing that we are focusing on is creating a holistic view of all the activities that happen in the university in the research, to connect it together. And this is something that we have today. It's done manually, so you can connect researcher to activity, to data set, etc. And we are working more and more on doing some of that automatically, and some of that also to include additional things. And one of the main things that we'll do here is add quite soon the projects, the research project, which will be kind of an umbrella entity for all the other research activities. We really believe, and I spoke briefly about the unification of systems, but the unification of systems, if you look at it, these systems are used by different stakeholders in the university. Can it be the library, the Office of Research, maybe IT, faculties, etc. And we believe that with one unified system, we can help bridge the gaps between all these stakeholders and to connect holistic workflows that will help also in the communication mainly between library researchers and research office in all these use cases, if it's deposits, if it's open access, or faculty activity reports and impact measurements. And this is another thing that we believe that Esploro can help with. I have just additional 2 slides. One of them is to show you where we are with integrations. As I'm sure you know, integrations are very important for us in Exlibris, and we believe that Esploro should not be a siloed product, but something very open. So we have all the APIs open for us, but also we already introduced quite a few activities with other vendors or organization, whether it's the DOI services like Crossref DataSite and Handle, but also other companies like Knowledge Unlatched that provide APC mechanisms, Retriever for media mentions, and of course the traditional one, the one that we showed all along, it was the integration with Altmetrics, Google Scholar, ORCID, and ProQuest thesis anticipation offering that are all integrated into Esploro. Also, the community has grown. I don't know when was the last time that you saw the community that we have, but now we have 30 customers, 3 of them in Australia, and we're looking to expand this list. But the ones in Australia are significant. The usage, RMIT, University of Sunshine Coast and Southern Cross University, really work with the system and provide us with a lot of feedback. And we did a lot of the development trying to answer the needs that came from these 3 universities. Hopefully, it can help us and you to gain more from your Esploro down the road. So this is from me, and I'm not sure if we have any questions.
I can't see any so far, but I'll let you know if some are coming the way.
Okay, so Adi, do you want to take the lead here?
Thanks, Nadav. Yes, just see if I can present. Okay, I have them all. So before sharing my screen, so just hello everyone. So I'll show a demo of what's new in Esploro. So I believe that all of you, or at least most of you, have seen already an Esploro demo. So this won't be a traditional Esploro demo that you've seen, but more updates of new stuff that we have built or are building and will be introducing in the next couple of months. This means that I'll be moving between different interfaces. I hope I won't be confusing you too much. I'll try to do this in an organized way, but I'll be showing you both stuff that you're already available in a live environment, but I'll need to show you also stuff that is still in the design process or development process. And so I'll be using, again, different environments. So hopefully you'll be able to bear with me. So let's start. I'll just, again, I'm reminding you that Esploro has 3 main user interfaces. The research, the management interface, used by librarians and research office staff members. The research portal, which is open to the public, and it's where you can showcase all your research-related content to the world, and the researcher profiles, which have both a public interface to showcase the researcher profile, but also one that can be accessed by the researchers themselves. And I'll show those interfaces, and again, different versions of them or variations of them in my session. So let's now share my screen. Okay. So I'm just trying to minimize here some WebEx control. Let me just, hopefully I'm doing it correctly. Okay. So I'm starting with the research portal. I'm starting here with the portal of one of our live customers, Southern Cross University. I'm sure you're all familiar with, and I believe that many of you already have already seen this portal. At this stage, it's based on it's very similar to the Primo VE Primo interface, and you can see here different. You can of course search through the content. You can browse through different through the profiles, through the organization units, different scopes, and so on. I'll go back into this portal in a second, but as I said, I believe that you've already seen it. We are working now on a completely new research portal, which we are designing from scratch, and it's built with research needs in mind, because at the end, Primo interfaces was built more in order to fulfill the needs of patrons looking for content available by the library. Here it's a bit different. And so we are now in the process of rolling out this new research portal. We have started gradually with rolling out the new asset page, which you'll see in a second. And we are now rolling, and will be by August this year. The plan is that all our customers will be on the new portal for all their pages. So what I'll show you now is a preview of the new homepage. You'll see it's only screenshots. It's still in the design phase. We are starting developing it actually probably next week. So what you'll see is not final and so on, but it will give you some sense of how the new portal will look like. So this will be the new the new homepage. You can search, of course, for different entities, and you can see that different placeholders here for your links. And again, it's a demo, so it's really a design, so you won't see all the content here. You can browse, search, or browse through the different entities within Esploro. So it's not only researchers, but also projects and grants and media mentions and activities that we'll be adding in research activities, which we'll be adding in Q3 this year, and other scopes that the institution will be able to create by themselves. Analytics, as we are having today in the current interface as well. We are planning to have place for no, this is still not final, but again, this is the idea, to have place for the institution to showcase or to highlight specific stories, specific content in different ways. Again, we're still playing with how exactly it will be. For instance, this won't be called top 10, we'll call it a bit differently, but you can see you'll be able to create different lists that can be created automatically, like the most viewed content, the most downloaded, recently added, and you'll be able to add additional scopes here, like maybe you would like to create, of course, very popular today, a COVID-19 scope with all the content related to it, or any other content you want to highlight. You'll be able to create your own lists and Esploro will showcase them automatically on the portal. We are planning to, again, additional analytics will be adding here on the portal that you would like to share with your users. And we are also planning, this will probably come a bit later on, but we are planning to add also a place, for instance, to add maybe some personal stories, testimonials about some researchers, maybe highlight a researcher that has just won some, I don't know, some prestige award and so on. So again, those are some of our thoughts for this. And as said, we'll be rolling this new portal later on this year. And by the summer, it will be live on all our customers' sites. So let's go back here to the Southern Cross University. I'll click on the open access scope or tab just to show some content. Again, as I said, also here the search results page will be going through is going now through a new redesign. I'm just looking at what we currently have at Southern Cross Institution. You can see here the different resources type that they are having. Esploro has now, I think, I stopped counting, but should be around 100 different asset types that we are supporting. It's also not only publications, of course, but data sets and code and creative work and interactive resources and teaching and learning and so on. So we can see here an example of those that are available here in open access in Southern Cross. And if I'll just open one of the assets over here, so you can see, you'll be able to see here already the new assets page that we have introduced recently. It still needs to go through some additional we're adding additional stuff to it, but basically this is the new one. Again, it was built with think about research in play, what's important for researchers. So for instance, to show the authors in an important place, to have a direct link for downloading the content and to the open access content if it's available. Metrics like alt metrics or views within the repository, and other metadata that, of course, everything here is highly configurable by the institution. They can decide what will be shown and what won't be shown. Another important entity that we have here, and it's not available in this specific assets, is relationships. So you'll be able to highlight relations to other assets. For instance, this is an article. It will be possible to easily find the data set, for instance, related with this article. And later on, the projects or research activities and grants and other entities. So all of the entities within the portal will be linked to each other. Okay, so just an example, I'm showing you here from the development environment. I've mentioned that we are currently building also a new search results page and also a new new page for the organizational structure for the different research units. So this, for instance, would be the new page showing the research units. If you will just click on one of the colleges over here, you'll be able to see. Hopefully it will come again. It's a development environment, so those, or actually QA environment. So those sometimes tend to go down and be restarted frequently, but let's wait for a second. Let's refresh it. Yeah, it might be that this environment now is just going through a refresh. This is a risk when showing stuff that is still under development. When you may have an environment that it's available. Okay, so it's not available. Anyway, we're building now so you won't be able to see this now. Apologies for this, but we're building now a new page, as I've mentioned, for showcasing the research units. And you'll need to trust me, that's something we are working on. It will be available on our customers' sandboxes already in the May release. So really soon, and will go live later on this year. So this is for the research portal, but I do want to show one more thing, which is there are of course the researcher profiles that are also linked from the research portal. Again, for those of you already seen the Southern Cross and portals, you'll be familiar with the researchers. So you can see here the different researchers that are associated with Southern Cross. This is the public interface of the researcher, and if I'll just click on one of them here, you'll see this is the public profile of the specific researcher, where I can see different information about her and contact information and maybe links, affiliations, education, and so on. And of course, very important, I can see her research outputs. In this case, she has mainly a publication, but also 2 data sets. And of course, once I'll click on this one over here, I'll be directed to the asset page that you've just seen. We have already enabled here a new tab, which is for awarded grants. Apparently, this specific researcher doesn't have this yet in a profile, but grants can be already seen here. And actually, in the May release, if I'm not mistaken, it's June, but as far as I remember, it's a May release. You'll be able to see here also media mentions, which I'll discuss in a second. And then in the June release, also research project, which I'll also discuss later on. So this is new stuff that we are working on, and I'll show it later on a different interface. Now, if I would have been a researcher affiliated with Southern Cross, I could have signed into my profile, but and play with it. Since I'm not, I'm showing you a different profile which I can access in our demo environment. Now this isn't me, but I've picked a guy that has slightly more publications than I have, and we've created a profile for Albert Einstein. So you can see here the different, again, his different information. And as I mentioned, here you can see also those are his outputs. I'm sure he has more. We didn't enter all of them, and also some grants that he has received. Again, this is an environment, it's a demo environment, but it's live one, so this is already available for our customers. And as I mentioned, since I'm signed into this environment, I can go and edit my profiles, add different information. I can register or connect my profile to ORCID, and we're working now on creating the two-way synchronization of data, publications, but also other data like my profile data or employment data, and so on. So stuff will be pushed from Esploro into ORCID or harvested from ORCID into Esploro. This is stuff that is currently under development, and we are working with ORCID around this. But you can already connect your ORCID ID and to your Esploro profiles. And as I mentioned, we can go through your different information, update it, and so on. And of course, and I think I'm sure you've seen this in the demo, so I won't demo it now. You can of course add content. At this point, it's adding research assets, but we are working now on also adding projects. This will be available in the July release. Adding a request for an APC integrated with Knowledge Unlatched, which Nadav mentioned briefly in his presentation, and eventually other stuff that researchers would be able to add to their profiles, like grants, projects, and so on. So this is for the researcher profiles interface. By the way, Nadav, Amanda, I have only one screen, so I cannot see if there are any questions coming. So are there? Should I check my chat or? Q&A?
I can't see any right now, but
Okay,
obviously
thanks.
anyone, if you want to ask question, just go to the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thanks. So, so those are the two interfaces which we've covered until now, the research portal and the researcher profiles. And now I'll go into the third one, which is the research management. Okay, let me just log into it. I believe that at least some of you are aware that we are now basically separating the management interface from the Alma interface. And I want to actually to rephrase it. We're separating we're separating the interface, but we are not separating the data. So Esploro is built like Alma, like Leganto, like Primo on Exlibris higher ed cloud platform, which means that all applications are sharing the same database, sharing the same data, and so on. But we are separating the interface, and so staff members who are dealing with Esploro with research-related content will will see an interface which is dedicated to research, and they won't need to see stuff that is unrelated to them. Of course, if they have roles both in Alma and Esploro, they can easily go through the different systems. There'll be a single sign-on available. The task list will show tasks coming both from Alma and from Esploro, and I'll be easily it'll be easy for me to browse between the two different applications on the one hand, but on the other hand, when I'm in Esploro, I'll be able to dedicate my work to explore to research related content, and similarly when I'm in Alma, I'll be able to focusing on library content. But as I said before, since we are sharing the data, we are currently building workflows to share data or to share workflows between those two products when there is a business case for it. And in a couple of minutes, I'll demonstrate a couple of things that will be working on them to show the connection between those two products. So as I mentioned here, you'll see different research-related functions. Again, most of them you've already seen. I will focus here on new stuff. So I won't go through the depositing of content, which I'm sure that you've already seen. I do want to show though a new the entity that we've recently added to Esploro, which is media mentions. So now I can also manage media mention in Esploro. So if my researchers were mentioned in the media, an interview, a press release, and so on, I can basically record this in Esploro, whether it was a local or regional, national, and so on, and I can add data about this media mention associated with the researcher and add content to it. And the stuff that we still will be adding later on is also I'll be able to connect it to a research asset. I've mentioned the relationship that we'll be able to show, for instance, on the portal. So you'll be able to show an article and its press coverage, and someone who will get into this asset page over here in the public portal will be easily able to get to and see the media mentions, for instance, where this article was discussed. So again, this is a new entity added to Esploro. As said, in the June release, you'll be able to see them also on the public profile, the researcher profiles. Other stuff here, it's managing researchers and managing the organization units and grants that I think you're familiar with, and also adding you can configure a profile for national assessment, which could be useful in your case for ERA, and adding a specific metadata to the asset that is related to ERA evaluation. So it's something you can create by yourself and add. One more thing that I would like to show in this interface is smart harvesting. I'm sure that you've heard a lot about this, and Dab also has mentioned this in his presentation. So we've I'm working now on adding smart harvesting from a CDI. Most of our customers already started playing with this and starting adding content to their researchers. And I'll show an example here. Basically, it's a job that will be running on an ongoing basis. I'll show here an example of a researcher that I've already ran smart harvesting for him. Okay, let me just, so this is the author matching approval task list. Let me just, oops, sorry. Let me search for a specific researcher. And this is a page that basically staff members will see when after research smart harvesting has run a specific researcher. And I can see here the different assets. In this case, we found almost 260 assets in CDI for this researcher. And you can see here, of course, if I'll go into, I click on one of the titles, you'll see all the metadata. It's basically the asset page with all the metadata received for this article in this case. And of course, I can edit it. But you can see here also the status and the ranks. For instance, this is very strong. So this this match, the match of these assets to Mark Holodny, which is an affiliated researcher associated with your institution, was very strong. And you can configure, as a staff member, you can configure whether very strong stuff will go automatically into the system, or whether it will require some manual approval or rejection by a staff member. This is something that you can configure. Later on, this will also enable researchers to approve or disapprove content harvested by smart harvesting on their profile. So if I'll go into my profile over here, I'll have a place where I'll be able to see all my, if I'm going now here, and I can see all my outputs. This is the outputs already was approved that it's part of my my profile. Will have here additional information for initial tab or a place. It's not designed yet, but a place for the researcher will be able to see the assets that were harvested for them, and they will be able to approve or reject this association. And of course, this will be controlled by you, so you'll be able to decide whether you would like to give researchers this ability or not, or leave this only to staff members, or maybe leave it only as an automated process. Again, this is something that you can control. So I've mentioned that we are working now as part of this interface separation from Alma on actually creating workflows which will enable sharing data from both Alma and Esploro when it makes sense to do it. So I'll go briefly over here. So this is a demo. You see here it's screenshots, but it's something we already started working on. And maybe I'll mention before that we are also working now on creating a new interface for managing researchers. So this is a new interface which will be available later on this year. And you can see the researchers. If I'll, for instance, click on one of them, let's make him full screen. So you can see here, make it a bit bigger. You can see here the different information about the researcher. Again, we have already this information, but we are working now on displaying it in a much more intuitive or a more like a nicer way. You can see here some sort of an executive summary of his assets and grants and so on. And of course, if I will click on the content, I'll be able to go into a more detailed view. In this case, it's a list of assets of this researcher, or I can see, for instance, the grants. So this is the grants, like on a timeline in this case, all the grants he has received. Always can see here some sort of an executive overview of what he has. And maybe the last one over here is funding opportunities is something we'll be working on, an integration with Esploro, with Pivot RP, sorry, and the ability to get funding opportunities from Pivot RP into Esploro. Getting this on the researcher profile on this interface, it's something already scheduled for this year. So there'll be an additional tab over here for the researcher to see funding opportunities coming for him from Pivot RP. So again, something we'll be working on this year. I'll go back here and I'll just show an example. I've mentioned this workflows which share data from Alma and Esploro. So for instance, if I'll click here, I would like to have here a search on all titles. Second. Coming, okay. Let me search for a specific term. And you see here results coming from both Alma and Esploro. So if I have roles within those in those two systems, so those two products, I'll be able to see, for instance, this is an electronic resource from Alma, but those are resources from Esploro, and this, for instance, is the book from Alma. And what I could do now, because let's say that this book over here is, you can see here, it's by one of my an affiliate. It was written by an affiliated researcher, and I have already a great MARC record which I created in Alma about this book. Why should I now recreate it from scratch when I am entering this data into Esploro? So basically, what I will be able to do is to add this content to Esploro. So now it will open a deposit form of Esploro, of a book in this case. So with some, you can see the information here with the ISBN, and if I'll just click next, it will fetch all the metadata from the Alma MARC record and map it to the Esploro schema and create an Esploro outset out of it. So you can see here stuff that came from Alma. I can approve it, and it's now available as a mediated deposit for this researcher in Esploro. So again, this is something that we are planning to, we'll be working on this year as well. One more thing that I would like to show you that we're working on, I've mentioned that we are working on adding research projects to Esploro. Research projects will be added in the June release. So they are now under development. I didn't want to show you a development environment because you've seen developer environments could be unstable. They're taking them down all the time and restarting them and so on. So I'll show you the design of this, but as said, it's already in active development and will be available in the June release. So those are research projects. So basically a project is sort of aggregation of data, it can contain different assets, a project group, a associated grant, and so on. And this is an example of a research project. So I can see here different information about it. Oops, sorry. Second. Sorry, I knew something was. I didn't start from the top. Oops. So this is, for instance, an example of a project. I can see the research members, also be member organizations. I can see different dates and milestones that are part of the project. Of course, files, and so on and so on. So many things that are related to projects. So again, this is something that will be released very soon to our customers in the management interface in June, and then in the profiles and in the portal in July and in August releases. Another place that we'll be adding a project, and this will lead me to the last part of this demo, is analytics. And we are working now also on creating a dedicated subject area for projects, as we have dedicated subject areas for every entity in the system. So if I'll go here to design analytics, and let me just open it in parallel to save some time. EV. Okay, so you can see here, if I'll go into a new analysis, I'll show it really briefly because I do want to leave some time for questions. But you can see here we have created a subject area for research assets, for research asset usage, for grants, for researchers, for smart harvesting. And as mentioned, we are working now on a new subject area for smart harvesting. And basically, if I'll go into it, you'll see all the different metadata elements should be basically available for creating different reports. Also here, by the way, we are using data coming from both Alma and Esploro. Okay, let me just first show this and then I'll go back to my explanation. This is a research assets subject area. So you can see here there's a lot of data available for you for creating reports. You know, I won't go into this now, but you can see many metadata fields. As I mentioned, since we're sharing the same data with Alma, we're already also enabled creating reports like crossing data coming from your Alma inventory with content available in Esploro. And then, for instance, you'll be able to see, let's say, which books were published by your faculty, which is in Esploro information, coming from Esploro, and cross it with your physical books in Alma. And then maybe you would like to purchase books that your faculty has published, but you still don't own them in your library. So this is something you can make it's possible by combining data coming from both Esploro and Alma. So last thing, I'm sure as you're also Alma customers, you should be familiar with DV, the data visualization sorry, actually I wanted to open it in a new tab. Let's go back for a second. I did open it in a new tab. Sorry, never mind. Okay, so data visualization is a new way for visualization data, which we have now by Oracle, but we have now in our higher ed cloud platform products. So you can see here, for instance, this is a dashboard that we've created for researchers. So I can see different information about my researchers in different ways. So for instance, this is an example of researchers, so and their publications. So these are the different academic units, and I can see the number of researchers and the number of assets they have. So the bigger the rectangle is the more researchers it has, but the darker the color is, the more assets that they have published. So for instance, I can see that this one over here is relatively small, but its color is very dark. So this specific faculty is very prolific. So this is an example of a visualization I can show in I can see in Divi. I can of course do it by different fields, also by, for instance, position. And if I'll go back now, sorry, that's the problem. We are working with so many tabs. Let's think, okay, this is the one I was looking for. I'll just show you an example of an additional dashboard that we've created for Divi. And research assets, I'll just open it in the new tab now. And for grants, I'll just briefly show this. Okay, it's coming. By the way, this sense over here is coming from Oracle. It's not something that we've invented. So for instance, here I can see a nice visualization of the different assets I have by category and type. In this case, we have mainly publications in this demo system, but you can see this here. You can create a timeline with the deposit by time, and even you can create a trend line, so predict how much content you'll have, let's say, a year from now, which is, for instance, useful for preparing your storage and stuff like this, and many other things. Again, because of the time, I won't show it. I'll just show we have also created a similar one for grants. So in this case, I don't have much information in the system, but you can see, for instance, grants by funder, different information about summary of grants and so on. So again, there are many ways to visualize content using Divi and see in an easy and nice way information about your content in Esploro. So that's it for my demo. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions you may have.
There's none at the moment, Addie, but I'm just, I guess we'll just wait a few minutes while people type.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like there aren't any questions. But as always, whilst we wait, just in case there are anything coming, but whilst we wait 30 seconds or so, as with all of our presentations and webinars, once we circulate the recording, if of course you've got questions that come up, if you do a second watch or whatever it might be, please feel free to send me a note and we'll be happy to get your questions answered. I think we could assume, Addie, here that there aren't any questions. And just before we sort of sign off, are there any questions even from Nadav, from the information that Nadav shared at the top of the session? Nope. No, looks like there aren't any. Well, I'd just like to thank you to our presenters. Thank you, Addie, and thank you, Nadav. That was, oh, actually there is. Thank you. There is one. Could you confirm the release date for the ORCID two-way sorry, that's end of the day. Can't put two words together. Could you confirm the release date for the two-way ORCID synchronization, please?
So this will be the second half of this year. Probably we'll start with publishing from Esploro to ORCID. We're looking into the more or less the August timeframe, and then later on also harvesting from ORCID. We were seeing more value in publishing to ORCID because looking at the ORCID profiles available out there, they don't have much information. Normally, they don't have much information, more information than what we have already in CDI. So it's probably we will be able probably to contribute more to ORCID than the other direction. So that's why we're starting from sending to ORCID, and then we'll also work on getting from ORCID.
Okay, good. Thank you, Addie. There's just a comment that the future developments are very exciting. So that's quite good to hear. Let me just check the chat to make sure that there are no additional questions. It looks like there aren't any additional questions for now. Just again, Addie and Nadav, thank you so much. And I'd like to thank you all for participating in the session today. I know that the time zone was a bit tricky because some of us are in daylight saving and others aren't. And also it's late in New Zealand and early in Perth, and of course it's early in the day for our folks in Israel and the UK. So I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I hope you've taken away something really interesting, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. And if there are any questions, feel free to let me know. So thanks everybody, and have a good day and afternoon and evening.